All right, so I started recording. Welcome to the Augur meeting for May 28th, 2020. We have our working group notes right here. We meet at 9 a.m. Central Time every week. And this week, our focus is going to be on discussing some of the changes to worker documentation and documentation itself, and then also just to introduce our Google Summer of Code students who could make it. And it looks like we have four at least. Hard to say when I'm sharing a doc. Looks like four. So if you could be sure to add your names and to the form there. And then Kevin later on will place a video link into the video link area. What I'd like to start out with is the Google Summer of Code, just kind of introducing our students. We have 6 Google Summer Code students. 3 of them are working on machine learning insight workers. 2 are working on GitLab collection workers to start, as well as testing. And then we have 1 student who is working on large-scale social network analysis operationalized from a number of points of view. So with that in mind, I don't want to call out anybody to start with, but maybe Tianyi, since you're the one person doing the large-scale social network analysis work, perhaps you could start by sharing just kind of the nature of your project, and if you have a link to your blog post or to your blog set up yet, that would be great. But if not, that's okay.
Sorry, I don't have prepared some blog about my project.
That's okay. Just describe it at a high level. I know one of the things I'm excited. Oh, you go ahead and start.
Yeah. First, nice to meet you guys. And my project is focusing on large-scale social network analysis in the open source community. So it's something that I'll try to accomplish in this summer. And in recent days, I'm working on to deploy the Augur to collect data from the Kubernetes community. There are about 6-8 repositories. I want to do some tests on this Kubernetes community and found some way to construct the social network on the data that Augur can collect it. But I haven't accomplished this work, and I cannot give the visual demonstration to other people.
Well, the coding period hadn't started yet, so it's
yeah.
That's really quite okay. And
yeah. In fact, I have some questions about Augur. According to my exploration with the Augur documentation.
Yeah, go for it.
The first one is that when I deploy the Augur, the installation process asked me to offer a GitHub API token.
Yes.
So rather than a token list. So I'm wondering if the Augur are able to collect the data in a distributed way, because if we collect the many repositories on GitHub, there are some restrictions on the GitHub API.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, there are 500, 500,
5,000.
Maybe the restrict 5,000. Yeah. I'm wondering if we could collect data through different token lists rather than single token.
Yes. Let me stop my share for just a minute so I can rediscover the panel. I tried to add the Augur docs
Yeah, I
to,
found that the documentation is quite different from the version that I
yeah,
had seen in the launch.
I want to point something out to everyone about, so if you're working in the dev branch, there's actually a separate uh, dev branch that exists for the documentation as well. Um, so, all right, here we go. So I put a link. I'm going to share my screen again. I put a link to that dev documentation in the review of worker changes and documentation link down here. And so some of the setup is a little bit more well documented in the dev branch at this time. And so I'd really encourage you to refer to this documentation primarily. If you have any questions about setting things up or, like something's not working, you can use this. So I'll add another thing here. And we cover some of this in our introductory meetings, but it's hard to remember all the things. So that's the GSOC channel. And also there's a mutual aid channel. So this is the GSOC channel, and this is the mutual aid channel. And so both those channels are good places to ask for help if you're having any difficulty installing anything really at all in the
Yeah, I mean some small problems, but I can solve it by myself. And
yeah.
I found the documentation is quite simple.
Good, good. To your question about volume, so in all cases, um, the people who are using Augur are representing a large number of organizations. It's not just um, one person usually. And so I want to point out briefly that if you have other, like if what you could do is, since we're all working together, you could exchange tokens and private messages. Um, because we have a table, and I'm going to share a slightly different thing right now. So in each Augur instance, so I'm in the Augur Zephyr instance, there are presently three major schemas. The SPDX schema, which has to deal with the Augur SPDX component that does licensing. Augur data, which is where most of the data goes, and then Augur operations. Augur operations has some useful metadata tables for you, such as your worker history, the jobs. These are automatically entered for you by the workers. But we also have this worker OAuth table. And if you have multiple folks in your project, which you do, you've got 6, you can share tokens with each other in this Augur OAuth table and just put the access token here. And then the worker will automatically use whatever token has calls available. The intention is that when a team is working together, that team is able to use each other's API calls So the likelihood, for example, that all of you will be making a ton of API calls all at once is very low. I also have for you, I'll just make another note here. I've been working on one of our servers that I've had to update. Each of you is going to get a I don't know why. Oh yeah. Everyone will get a populated database with right credentials on this server. So you'll have some data to start with as well. And I've been working on making that available, and it has just with it basically the server needed to be upgraded, and I'm right now working on a firewall issue, but we're almost there. I've got the export of the database that we're going to start with, and I think um, I expect to have that finished today. So then at that point, you won't have to necessarily collect data to get started, especially for the folks doing machine learning, or in your case, TNE, the large scale social network analysis. So those are really good questions.
Thank you.
Um, who wants to go next? How about Pratik? Are you comfortable going next and just describing your project for the summer?
Yes.
Go ahead. What are you working on this summer, Pratik?
I will work on to, as you said, to grow the coverage of Insight Worker for mainly time series metrics and to apply the machine learning algorithm.
Excellent. So the time series metrics, um, Gabe, I don't know if you want to quickly describe the difference between time series metrics and other metrics that we have in Augur.
Um, yeah, so I mean, I'd say most of our metrics that we provide in our API are a time series where uh, it just includes some sort of date um, on the x-axis and then some value for the y-axis, but there are cases where time isn't a component in some metrics. So, like some of the other GSOC students, which we'll hear about in a minute, are working on discovering anomalies through messages of, let's say, like pull request comments or issue comments. Um, and those aren't metrics per se, but just another medium to detect anomalies on.
Excellent. Thanks, Gabe. Um, Akshara, would you be interested in describing your project next?
Yeah, so I'll be working on machine learning for anomaly detection on text messages, mainly focusing on commit issues and pull request messages to gauge the sentiment as well as identify any outlier messages. I'll also be working on Augie, the Slack bot, to send in the insights, and also hoping to get some feedback. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. That's an exciting project. So, especially since you'll be working some on Augie and Sarit. I think you're the fourth person of our six who were able to make it this morning. If you wanted to describe your project a little bit.
Sure, yeah. Hi. Okay, so yeah, it's suggested by you. I will be working on the text data from the comments in the issues and comments on the pull request. We'll look into the ways to cluster the repositories based on the type of communication going on there, and also some bit of sentiment analysis. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
You're also going to work a little bit on worker testing, I believe, right?
Sorry?
Testing, worker tests, PyTests for workers. Am I remembering that correctly? Or no, is that somebody else, Gabe? No, that must be somebody. That's somebody else. Sorry,
yeah, right.
Sorry. Yeah, I think it was one of the people working on the GitLab workers, who are I guess we don't have any GitLab worker folks here today.
Yeah, Sai is the one working on the worker test architecture.
And who's the other? What's the name of the other GitLab worker person? All right, cool. And I'll just add that. So yeah, definitely pay attention to the particular dev branch of the documentation. It's much more up to date than the master branch right now. And of course, there's the GSOC channels that are good places to look. And I'll have everyone a database here. And if you ever destroy your database accidentally, let me know and we can rebuild it. Like if you mess up the data. So there's just, work with me on any additions to the tables. Some of you will have to add tables and we'll just work together. Like you'll say, I need a table that looks like this, and I'll help you just give it the kind of names that we ordinarily would and foreign keys that we ordinarily would, just to maintain the integrity of our relational database strategy. Gabe, I know there are some as yet not fully developed changes to the worker and the document in terms of some of the ways that the workers will be organized in order to support the development of tests. I was wondering if I thought I had that as a, oh yeah. But I was wondering if you wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about how we might work on that. Like what are the issues? Essentially, the way that we've tested workers up until now is I've run a bunch of collection and validated that the collection was accurate and identified any errors that occurred in the execution of a real test for the worker. And now we're going to start to write Python tests that test the worker prior, sort of parts of the worker at least, prior to me running those collection integrity tests. And I think there are a couple conceptual changes to things that or ways the workers might be organized in the future that our Google Summer of Code students may not need to pay attention to right now, but perhaps you could give us a couple of the highlights, Gabe?
Yeah, sure. So there are slight benefits to our ability to test with these changes. There's not a whole lot to cover at the moment, but another big benefit of this change is makes it a lot easier for people to get started with workers and just understand them conceptually as they're just building them for the first time. And basically the changes consist of so now we have a base worker class that all of our workers will extend. And what that helps us do is kind of handle the things that are replicated across all the workers in a more elegant way. So, I mean, originally when creating workers, there was a lot of just copying and pasting, and a lot of things ended up being the same unnecessarily. And now we have that all in a centralized place, which is good because now we can make more canonical changes when we run into errors or things like that. And there's more shared methods that all of these workers use. And that's where the benefit to testing comes along, because again, it's just in a centralized place.
And to give a bit of a background, a year ago, we didn't have any functional workers at all, and we didn't have our fully developed relational schema either. So I think we developed workers with our Gabe and a couple Google Summer of Code students last summer, and these students did a really great job, and Gabe did a really great job. But we were figuring out how the worker broker housekeeper architecture was actually going to work. We'd spent 6 months designing it, and so implementing it for the first time, we did do a lot of copy paste, and Gabe and Carter have led some really critical refactoring work that makes it easier. Are there other benefits, Gabe, in addition to I mean, obviously, presently, I know you have the base worker class. What are the benefits that you think will arise from some of the additional refactoring that you plan to do?
It's hard to speak on that because we're still discussing the design of what we're going to do. But pretty much a goal that we're aiming for is to reduce the number of workers overall, because currently we kind of have a one model per worker design, which right now gives us the flexibility we need when setting up data collection tasks and determining how many processes we want running for each data model. But with the new design, we hope to be able to combine more workers into one. Some will be grouped by data source, some by data subject, and not sacrifice any of that flexibility with determining how many processes are allocated towards each data subject's collection.
What was that last thing you said? I was trying to use fancy keys to tab out, and I don't know what.
Basically, a goal of a new design, which is hard to speak on specifics of, will be to be able to reduce the number of workers by combining some of them without sacrificing the flexibility of being able to control the number of processes working on each data model's collection.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Can we means in machine learning, if we apply 3 or 4 machine learning models, can we do multi-processing inside worker?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that I have been wanting to implement in other workers for a while, but never have. So yeah, you can do that for sure.
So right now the multi-processing
Yeah,
is
I thought like data collection and means collecting the data from endpoints and then applying machine learning model, like 4 same models, so we can do multi-processing.
So I think Pratik is discussing the possibility of having multiple machine learning algorithms run inside of a worker, which conceptually, Gabe, would that involve multiple models inside of a worker?
Yes.
Multiple machine learning model. It sounds like, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, which is totally okay, Pratik.
Do we right now we don't have examples of although we've had multiple models in workers in the past. Presently, the workers don't have multiple models in them. Will that be will introducing how to do that be part of the next update to the worker architecture, Gabe? So in other words, should Pratik wait like a week or two,
Well, okay.
or should he go forward and start building multiple models now?
Well, I think there's a little confusion here because Pratik's talking about machine learning models, and I was talking about data models.
Okay.
So Pratik is talking about using the Python multiprocessing module to speed up some of his
okay.
machine learning analysis within his worker, which is a separate matter, and that totally works and is fine. But Sean, to answer your question, yes, that will likely be a design change in the future. But I don't. It's hard to speak on it because it's not like a for sure thing yet. We may end up taking a different route. Like we're still
discussing it.
Things, yeah. So I don't want to say too much on it because I don't want to say something that ends up not being true.
Well, and what I'll do is I'll highlight the word preliminary right there, just so that it's very, very clear that what we're discussing is highly preliminary.
The base worker class, though, is not preliminary. That's for sure thing that will stay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the base worker architecture will of course stay, right?
And by that, I mean that common class that I was describing earlier.
All right, I will just made a note of that. One final thing I thought we might talk about on this call, which I didn't have on the agenda because I didn't know if Andrew would be here. Andrew Brain and Gabe. Andrew Brain's one of our students here in Missouri, and Gabe have been working on Jupyter notebooks for, I guess, piloting new metrics and new visualizations. And I don't know, Andrew, if there's, maybe we just want to talk about it right now and plan to share some of that in a future meeting, just so we don't give away database credentials or anything that are embedded in the current Jupyter notebooks. But although if you've got some graphs you want to share just to give people examples, that's totally fine. I think I can grant you the ability to share as a co-host. I actually can't, but maybe Kevin is still listening and can make Andrew Brain a co-host.
Yes, I can do that.
All right, awesome.
You want me to just show the graphs at the bottom so I don't show their credentials at the top?
Yeah, I think that'd be the smart way to go.
Okay.
Second. I'll stop my share.
Oh, thank you.
And I think the way that Dawn at Pivotal is doing it, where she's got a separate file that she references for credentials, is a good model we'll follow once we distribute these notebooks for wider use.
You said Andrew?
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew Brain.
Okay. Yep. Andrew, you are co-host now.
Okay.
Which means you can share your screen.
Guess as of right now, let's look at this one because these are the ones right now that are the best. Okay, can everybody see it?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, so here's just the first visualization. It just shows the new contributors per month over a repo. And that's based off the CHAOSS definition of a new contributor as being the first time they ever make a contribution. And it allows you to filter the dates and so that you can specify over time if you only want to look at a certain period of time. And you can filter by month or year if you're more interested in one or another. And then this visualization, if you just want to break it down on a deeper level, you can look at all the different actions and all the different, how the contributions build up over the months. So you can see where your new contributors are coming from most of the time, what their first contributions are. And then again, you can group this one by year also, if you want to look at it over a longer period of time, just to see the trends of where most of the new contributors are coming from.
Mm.
And the license analysis one is, it was working yesterday, but I tried to do few more things to it, so it's not working as of right now on this.
To make things better, sometimes we have to break them.
Yeah, I could show that on another day, I guess.
You mean the
All right.
pie charts? Because we have
Oh yeah, we have pictures of those in the Slack.
Yeah, we could bring a picture of that up. That's true.
So like here's one of the pie charts. It just shows the licensing of them over the repo across all the files. So you can see just different licenses and how many files are licensed and how many aren't.
And that's across the 6 Zephyr repositories that are included in the analysis that we did for Zephyr.
Yes.
So Zephyr itself, I just want to point out, is 100% license coverage, and some of their competitors are not.
Yeah. And then this shows across Zephyr, across their licenses, the percentages of what their most common licenses are and how many.
Can you make that bigger?
Licenses.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the Zephyr project
Yes.
itself. Yeah. So, or is this just all the files that have licenses
All the files that have licenses, and
in the full collection of 6 repositories?
yes.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, my thoughts are we should probably list the repositories involved in any particular item, but I think that's a separate matter. That looks great. So this is some really exciting work that's happening in the context of being able to use the Augur repository to do new things and let people have access to their data in ways that let them derive insights using common tools like Jupyter Notebooks. So that's a pretty giant set of things that are going on in Augur. As we like to close these meetings about 10 minutes before the top of the hour, just to give people time to do other things if they need to between meetings. Are there any other items that folks, or any other topics, excuse me, that anyone wants to bring up right now?
I think I'm good.
Okay, that's then the Augur call for May 28th, 2020, and we'll be back here again next week, demoing some more of the new things that we've done in Augur. Perhaps even I can't anticipate what we'll have to show, because we have a lot of folks working on different pieces of Augur. So we'll certainly let everyone know what we have that we're going to showcase next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah, see you. Bye bye.